Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Paws and Purpose SPCA Podcast of Texas. We are here today with Mara Davies, KJ Eugene, our usual suspects, and today we've got a very special guest with us today. We have the CEO of the SPCA of Texas, Chris Luna. Chris, thank you for being here today.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So glad that you're here.
It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us. We know you're a busy person. And we just kind of, have been talking the last 3 weeks, getting ready for you to come on, and all of us have had some really interesting questions we'd like to throw your way. So we'll just start if that's okay with you.
Yeah, jump right in. All right, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions first. First of all, Chris, tell us about your childhood and early life. Where did you grow up? And can you remember just what motivated you to stay positive every day?
Sure. So, native Houstonian, born and raised in Houston. There are 8 children in my family. My parents were the first in each of their respective families to graduate from high school and to graduate from college. My dad on the GI Bill after World War II, and my mom mainly on scholarships because she was wicked smart. And so grew up in that kind of large family environment. And I always joke about having thick skin when you grow up in a big family. But one thing that my parents did was instill in all of their children 2 things. One, the importance of education. And so all of us went on to college and did things like that. But the second thing about giving back and being involved in civic and community. And my mom always had a couple of expressions that have stuck with me to this day, which was to be a giver, not a taker, and to be a lifter, not a leaner. And so my parents were involved in their church and scouting and other things, and instilled that sense of community and volunteerism in all of their kids.
Excellent.
I love that.
Yeah.
To start off, getting right into your, I think the bulk of your career, but certainly not all. You're an attorney and now CEO. What started you down your career path as a lawyer?
Sure. So we talked about my family and instilling the importance of education. So after graduating from high school, went to UT in Austin for my accounting degree. Hook 'em horns.
A little plug.
And I had an older brother that was a lawyer. And so when he would come home, we'd talk about law school and being a lawyer. And in high school, was involved in debate and that sort of thing. And so as I was wrapping up my accounting degree, I did interview with accounting firms, really wanted to go to law school, but that's what kind of started. The seed was probably my older brother and being involved in debate in high school.
And Chris, where did you go to law school?
University of Texas also.
Oh, right. Okay,
great. Went there for my accounting degree and then stayed in Austin for law school.
Awesome. Very good. So your older brother was an attorney. I mean, how much older is he than you?
Stephen is probably 6 or 7 years older.
Okay.
So I was still in high school when he was coming back from law school, for the holidays in the summer, and we'd talk about law school and that sort of thing.
Would you say he was your guidepost going through law school? Was he someone you could always bounce things off of and talk to about it?
Absolutely, because and from not only my immediate family, but even going over to like nephews and cousins and uncles and aunts, I think he was the first one in our extended family to go to law school. So he was definitely a great mentor and resource in that regard.
Is he still practicing today?
Actually, he is. He recently retired. He had been with Exxon his entire career and retired from there, but the retirement didn't take, and he went to work for another oil and gas company.
Very good. Good gig, too, huh? I mean, that was a great place I'm sure, to work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Chris, if you're given a chance to go back in time and give yourself advice that would help you get to your career goals faster, what would you say to your younger self?
It's advice that I learned mid-career, not quite later career, that wish I had had an early career, and that was somebody said, don't take a job for the position or for the company. Take the position based upon who your boss will be. And in hindsight, that was great advice, and wish I'd done it earlier in my career, because with the right boss, you have the right mentor, you have the right advancement opportunities, you have somebody who's kind of looking out for your career. And I think a lot of times we think, oh, that title is a great title, not thinking that boss may not have your best interest at heart. Or you say, oh, that's a great company, I want to go work for that company. Once again, not thinking that boss may not be a great mentor, or give you stretch assignments or opportunities for advancement. And so that's now kind of one advice I give to younger folks is look for the boss, not the title or the company.
Well, that resonates with me. I don't know about anybody else on the show, but that resonates with me for sure. Can you tell us how your career in law prepared you for work that you're doing now?
Sure, and I think in two kind of separate ways, or two different buckets. First, we're a nonprofit, and so we've got to comply with the IRS rules. We've got to comply with state law. As an employer of 177 folks, we need to comply with Department of Labor rules. Of course, a lot of our transactions are based upon contracts. So there's that kind of legal bucket that I think is helpful to have that background in this role, because really the SPCA of Texas, with a $20 million budget, 177 employees, is a complex business, and so that legal background is helpful. But the second bucket is just kind of general things you learn in law school and in practicing law. It's really all about identifying problems, identifying issues, and solving them. And so as a lawyer, our goal is to get to yes. It's always easy as a lawyer to say no, you can't do that. No, that won't work. No, that's too risky. The real question is, how do we get to yes? And so I think my training as a lawyer translates into that here at the SPCA of Texas, which is a lot about solving problems, having strategy, trying to get to yes to move the organization forward. So I think those two buckets, purely legal stuff is helpful, but really it's the training and what we try to do as lawyers, to help the client move forward to be successful.
Sure. It's excellent.
I like it. Well, you've had a lot of other experience, and this is a little going a tiny bit off script, but tell us a little bit about how other positions you've held, other experience you have, has prepared you so very well for this position.
Sure. I think that the big one is having served on the Dallas City Council. Yeah. Served 3 terms. And it's kind of interesting because I was 30 when I was elected, and I tell people that's a perfect age because, when you're 30, you know everything. But it really was a great learning experience. The city had a $1 billion budget, had 12,000 employees, and it was really learning both the kind of business side of running a large enterprise, but really it was the constituent services. Having 100,000 people in my district that would call our office for help, that need assistance. And so it was really that kind of customer service component. One thing I kind of just learned on the bill of the city council, sometimes people got mad at the way you voted, but what they really got mad was when their garbage wasn't picked up, or the potholes weren't being fixed, or nobody's addressing the barking dog, at the house next door. So it was that kind of customer service background that really kind of filtered in. And so I think that experience was really kind of foundational for the rest of my career, and I've tried to bring some of that, here at the SPCA of Texas, of customer service, solving people's problems, being responsive, to the public.
Well, I know, Mara, you're going to come back to another question, but just to kind of follow up to that, I know exactly what you're talking about working in city government. And that just leads me to another thought, too, is you probably, as an attorney, and even more so with this city, worked with people from all kinds of different backgrounds, socioeconomic and everything across the board. Do you think that's something that helps you prepare to be a boss of a lot of different folks with different ages and backgrounds and lifestyles?
Absolutely. I mean, the city in general is a very diverse. We would have neighborhood association meetings, we'd have community meetings, and people would show up and want to be heard and want to have a seat at the table. And so, absolutely, being able to listen to folks, and I think part of it is, there's two sides to every issue. And you seldom do you do something that's going to make everybody happy. And so part of that was being able to listen, and people understand they're being heard, even if you don't do what they want or their preferred outcome. But it's hearing those diverse and divergent voices and viewpoints, and trying to come up with a solution for the majority or the most of the people.
Excellent.
That's so important.
Makes total sense, yeah.
Yes. Well, so you've been in your position for just barely over a year. It's been a wonderful year. And my question for you right now is, coming in versus 1 year later, what were your expectations coming in, and what are your expectations moving forward from here?
Sure. I mean, I think overall, it has met my expectations. I mean, coming in, one thing that I kind of wanted to use as my mantra was to communicate, to coordinate, and to collaborate. And so in that year, I've tried to really work with other animal welfare organizations. I'm really big on not duplicating services. And, if somebody else does something really well, why not let them do that? At the same time, there are a lot of things that we do really well, and that's where we can invest our time, our talent, and our treasure into those things. So those expectations were there. Really, the surprise were the things, what's the old saying, you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And so some of the things, for instance, the vet shortage. For my babies, I call my neighborhood vet. I may not get in that day, but I can get in the next day. Yep. And so if somebody would have said, "Oh, there's a vet shortage," like, well, there's not. I can get in to see my neighborhood vet. Sure. And then even how more acute the shortage is in shelter vets. So there's a vet shortage in general, but even in shelter vets, even more severe. Once again, having owned my home for the last many years, not having to deal with a landlord, but the rules that landlords have about either breed-specific prohibitions or weight. I'd never heard that, right, because it didn't impact me. Sure. And so things like that, the learning about animal welfare. But like I said, as I mentioned, in general, I felt very comfortable in managing large teams, felt very comfortable in developing and managing budgets, felt very comfortable, as we talked about earlier, working with the community in general. So all those expectations were pretty much on, spot on. But it was really learning about animal welfare issues that were new, that were not what I expected, that they were going to be.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Chris, I pick up in what you said thus far a real sense of service. Like, just as an attorney, you're serving your client. On the city council, you're serving fellow citizens and people that are, on your side politically. And then here it's the same thing. You're serving a whole staff. Is that something that runs in your family? Is that something that you've always thought to be of service to others? Or is that something that has just kind of come upon you as you've progressed, matriculated through your profession?
I think it's a combination. I mean, clearly, as I mentioned earlier, I think my parents installed in all of their children that sense of service, sense of community, a sense of giving back. So from I think from a very early age, that was there. But I think other things were just opportunities. And one thing I've learned is kind of being at the right place at the right time. On the city council, they had moved to what was called 14 single-member districts, and one being the mayor elected at large. And so the city council was enlarged, and where I lived, there was no incumbent. And so it just was kind of the right time to run. On some of my nonprofit boards I've served on, it's for instance, hey, we need, your skills on this nonprofit board. Are you willing to serve? And even then here at the SPCA of Texas, when the search firm contacted me about this opportunity, it was just kind of the right time for a career pivot from leaving the private sector. So I don't want to say it's fortuitous, but definitely that sense of service was instilled in us. And then the other thing was just the right opportunities at the right time.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, the more you talk, the more questions that pop into my head. But Mara, do you have one that you're ready to go with? I mean, I could ask him questions from now until midnight.
Same. Seriously, yes. Yeah. Same. Thinking about a lot of the work that we do, part of what you're talking about here, there is the contract aspect, there is nonprofit management, lots of those legal considerations that we have to take care of. Do you see any, just generally speaking, and not necessarily here at the SPCA of Texas, but anything coming in the future that regarding animal welfare, nonprofits in general, from a legal perspective, that's important to think about, or anything from animal cruelty investigations, partnering with other organizations that are here to make the world a better place for animals. Anything specific that you're seeing coming, maybe even involving the veterinary shortage? There may not be a legal aspect to that, but just curious if you had any thoughts there.
Yeah, I think two, and one's kind of macro, and then one's kind of micro. On a macro level, in animal welfare and the law, in most states, including Texas, animals are treated as property. And as a matter of fact, there's a famous case where the court basically said the person's dog is much like a toaster. It's something you own, and it belongs to you, and it's your property. And so a lot of times in the animal cruelty space and issues, if it's a child or a person, the law is much more proactive to prevent the abuse or to prevent the neglect. Many times with animals, because they're viewed as a property, it's almost after the fact. Once there's the abuse or once there's the neglect. That issue in the law, I think, will take some time to change and attitudes to change. That yes, while you may own this dog or cat, it has the same worth and same feelings as a person.
Sure, sentient being, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Sentient being, and so the law will have to change in that regard. On a micro level, and one where I think we can make change quicker, is in the laws related to the sale of puppies. Many cities have passed laws, but nowadays with cities bumping up to each other, it's easier for somebody just to go across the city limits and sell puppies retail. And there's been articles and research on many times the health of those babies coming from puppy mills, unscrupulous sales where they do financing contracts. Oh, you can't afford this $2,000 or $3,000 designer puppy. Well, here, sign this contract with high interest rates,
right.
And that sort of thing.
Ridiculous.
And so I do think that in the next legislative session, there can be progress made for a statewide retail puppy ban. And part of it is, people will say, oh, you're just saying that because you've got so many dogs and cats, available for adoption. That's part of it, but our animals here are vetted or vaccinated, spayed and neutered and are ready to go. And so I do think there's a lot of value in going the rescue route versus the retail route for dogs and cats. And I think that's one area where we can make changes in the law.
That looks like you'd have to change a lot of hearts and minds to get people to believe that animals are not just a piece of property. And I mean, I think most of us who have animals don't see them as just a piece of property. We see them as a family member. Mm-hmm. But it looks like that's kind of might be a tall hill to climb, getting others to see it that way.
Yeah, I do think it'll take some time. Yeah. And of course, in Texas, especially in the rural areas, I think in urban areas, people are more likely to treat their animal like a family member. I think in many parts of Texas, where it's more rural, exactly, I have a different mindset. But I do think with some education and some time and some conversation, attitudes and minds and feelings can change.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, absolutely. Well, let's see. Next on the list here, we talked a little bit about what brought you to this position as CEO. Chris, what do you hope to accomplish as the CEO of the SPCA of Texas? I mean, I'm not sure how many there have been in the past, but what are you going to do to leave your personal mark on the SPCA of Texas?
Yeah, I think the first and foremost is our discussion about the expansion, a new building. We're not going to be able to build ourselves out of this situation of so many dogs and cats that need to be rescued. But we do need more space. We do need, our current building is a great building and is state of the art. We need more. Whether it's disease control or other things. All the research shows that you do a lot more adoptions if folks can see the babies versus, online is great, but, and so if we have more space for adoptions, like I say, more space for disease control will be great. So I think that will be something that will be physical that people can see is one. And the second thing we talked about not being able to build ourselves out of the situation. What we can do to help the situation is increase spay and neuter. We do great jobs on adoptions. We do a great job on fosters. We do a great job on spay and neuter. But if you look at the gap of how many spay and neuters that not only that we're doing, but our other animal welfare rescue partners are doing versus what needs to be done, there's that gap. And I think that's where you're going to turn the spigot off on the pipeline of so many dogs and cats that need to be rescued or adopted if we can do more on the spay and neuter front. Our new building will help us do that. But I think that's the second thing. If we could lay the foundation for some permanent raising the bar on the number of spay and neuters that we do each year would be phenomenal.
It's kind of a root cause of the things that we have to deal with in animal welfare. Right?
Exactly, yeah. And many of this is the same thing about human health care.
Sure.
If we can do more preventative, if we can do more vaccines, if we can do more spay and neuter, then those babies aren't getting sick.
Right.
And not having babies have babies.
Absolutely.
It makes a lot more sense.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your babies at home. I think just recently you adopted one, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about those puppers.
So Duke was actually a animal cruelty investigation. One of our puppy mill cases out in East Texas in Van Zandt County. So Duke is our newest addition to the family.
And what kind of dog?
He's a little Yorkie.
Okay.
Came in, and before that, it took about a 6-month break from our last ones, which had some health issues and was a little painful when she passed. But have had babies before that. Sophie was a rescue dachshund, who was a real pistol, and Rasputin was a rescue cat. So have had cats and dogs. Newsflash, I tend to be more of a dog person than a cat person. I realize that some people are both, but some people are one or the other.
Right.
And full confession, I tend to be more of a dog person than a cat person.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. Are you like us too? When you walk around through the building and walk through the pods, do you walk by each one and think, well, I could be the dad of that dog, and that's a sweet dog? And I mean, is it sometimes when you walk through there, do you wonder why they're still here, because they're so sweet?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
especially when you read the kennel card,
Right.
And it
Yeah.
says, loves to play, or very friendly, or great with kids, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, why is this baby still here? Which is why many times when some of our longer stay babies do get adopted, the staff and team goes ecstatic because
Celebration.
so-and-so's going home. Yeah.
Totally, absolutely.
Great news.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, we have a lot to celebrate here at the SPCA of Texas, and thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for taking the time to be here.
Chris.
You are wonderful. You're very busy making amazing things happen, and we appreciate you.
Absolutely, and I think you gave us a lot of insight into who you are and who you are as a leader, and we're all behind you, and we're so glad you're here, and can't wait to see where we go in the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years.
Well, thank you. Just promise that I can come back when we have our 100th episode.
Oh, yes. Before then. Come back before then. You're great. We need to know more about you and your leadership, and it was great to have you on. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, folks, that's it for this edition of the Paws and Purpose SPCA Podcast of Texas. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.